One of the things that truly sets iSales 100 from xkzero apart is the ability for us to be able to create an ideal user experience for each and every user system. So using iSales 100 for Sage 100, the keys for success for creating that ideal user experience starts with establishing the right level of data access and also providing all of the functionality that each individual user needs, but only the functionality that they need. And that's how you create the perfect user experience to close more business, to serve your customers better, while reducing unnecessary labor and sales administrative costs. It starts with the remote user setup in the back end of your Sage 100 system. Let's have a look. Each remote user is set up right within Sage 100 in a module called xkzero Web Services under the Setup folder and then Remote User Maintenance. So in Remote User Maintenance, I'm going to go ahead and select an existing user called Demo. And this is a user ID that's going to be used on the mobile app itself. It's on the User tab where we first set up the password that they'll use to access iSales 100 from their iPhone or their iPad. And we'll also map them to a company code and to a salesperson code. And this is who's going to get credit and in which company those orders are going to be entered into. Also on this tab, we can do things such as disable that user so their login will no longer work. And the other thing that we can do is we can establish a date here for requiring minimum number of days for each synchronization. iSales 100 is an offline application, so you can require a synchronization as frequently as once a day. I'm going to leave it set at 0, which means I never have to synchronize. I'm never forced to. Two other things that I can do here is I can hide pricing information for that user, and I can hide quantity information for that user as well. The next step in setting up my ideal user experience with iSales 100 is filtering customers. Using the same example of the demo user, I'm now going to go to the Customers tab, and you'll notice a number of different things that allow me to filter the customer. So these are simple checkboxes where, based on the assignment on the User tab of who the salesperson is, I can just check this box and it will limit only those customers for this user that are assigned at the customer master level. And furthermore, I can restrict that just at the division level if you have a divisionalized accounts receivable setup in Sage 100. And I can add into that a few other types of customers. I can include where my salesperson ID is the default at a ship to level, where I'm not the default salesperson at the customer level. And I can also choose to include internet customers, on-hold customers, or temporary customers in my filtering. Now, following down below, I can do additional filtering as well. So if I, for instance, wanted to limit my customer access to, say, a certain state, in this case here, I'm going to say state equals Wisconsin. What I've done here is once I've saved this, and the next time I synchronize iSales, is the only customers I'll be able to see as this user is where the state is equal to Wisconsin. Another thing that I can do, and this is a very powerful feature that we have when setting up iSales to be used as a B2B mobile app, is by restricting a single login to a single customer number. By doing that, then what I can do is restrict the customer access to just one single customer record within Sage 100 on the iSales application. So other options here on the Customer tab, indicating whether or not we want to bring customer memos down, whether or not we used to wish to have the order history. So I've got customer last purchase history for orders, quotes, and invoices, and I can even restrict that further if I only wish to see order an item sales history the last 12 months, then I can do that. If I wish to put no date restriction on it, I'll leave it as a 0. We can also give each user permission or not to create a new customer on the fly. If I'm a user who has permission to set up new customers on the fly, then what I can do is set a default tax schedule, a default term schedule, and a default price level for those new customers as they're added on the fly. And then the last thing that I can do here is we have the ability with iSales to display additional fields from the customer master file directly down to the iSales application. And we support even user-defined fields. So if you have user-defined fields at the customer level and you wish to have those published at the customer record level in iSales, you can do so here. So this is the setup of filtering customers. And next we're going to move on to inventory items. iSales 100 has very powerful capability for filtering inventory items. You'll notice starting on the left that we can determine based on the item type whether or not we want to have inventory or internet items, regular items, miscellaneous charge codes, comment codes, or miscellaneous item codes brought down to the mobile app. Furthermore, we can break that down by finished goods, kits, or raw materials. So if I don't wish to have raw materials or kit items and I only wish to have finished goods in addition to miscellaneous charges, comment codes, and miscellaneous item codes, then I just check the boxes appropriately. Also, when it comes to viewing warehouse quantity on hand and unavailable, we can choose to exclude items that are 0 on hand or 0 available. So each time you would synchronize the data, if these boxes are checked, it's going to evaluate those items and it will leave them off of our selection if we have them filtered out. The purpose for these checkboxes down below with the alias items, customer alias and vendor alias, is if you're doing barcode scanning at the transaction level for iSales 100, you can choose to do barcode scanning based on alias items in addition to the regular item number. Also with iSales, you can choose to filter warehouse availability by individual warehouse for each user. So for instance, if my demo user only has access to warehouse 000 and 002, I check those boxes accordingly. And then similar to at the customer level, we can choose to display any additional field from the item master file, including user-defined fields, at the item level within iSales 100. Next, we'll take a look at options for display of open orders and open invoices. On the Open Orders tab, we have the ability to choose for display the sales orders by type. So we can choose to exclude back orders, price quotes, and so on, or choose to include them, including master orders or repeating orders if we wish to see those. Furthermore, based on the inventory status, new, open, or hold, we can choose to have them displayed. And then for purposes of reprinting, you'll notice here that we have the ability to reprint open orders, open back orders, or open price quotes. At the click of a box, you can choose whether or not to have that available for each individual user. Very similar options on the Open Invoices tab. So here we can indicate whether or not we wish to include open credit memos, open debit memos, to show payment information, include unpaid finance charges, cash transactions, or balance forward information. This box right here indicates whether or not we wish to show the line detail for open invoices. And then on the printing box over here, these are checkboxes for allowing the reprinting of invoices and credit memos at each individual user level. Then the last thing that we're going to do in our setup is looking at setting up iSales 100 to create the perfect transaction experience for each user. On the New Transactions tab, we have many rules that are available to create just that perfect experience. Let's start over here on the left. Over on the left, you'll see that we can give permission for what types of transactions this user can create. So if we don't wish to allow for them to create credit memos, we'll deselect that box. Same with invoices too. Then once we've done that, then what we can do is choose the default type transaction to speed up data entry for them from the iPhone or from the iPad. Additionally, what we can do is indicate whether or not new orders automatically get placed on hold. And then we have a number of permission level features here, whether or not we allow a change to a bill to address, a ship to address, a ship via, changing the overriding the terms code, or the creation of a new sales order memo at the time of transaction entry. For the sake of speed, we can define a default warehouse for each individual user. We can indicate whether or not we require or optionally collect a signature at the time of transaction. We can indicate whether or not we want to have a live calculation for price changes, sales tax, things of that nature. And then we also have the ability to provide override capability at the price level, for unit price, price level, change of unit of measure, and so on. These fields are currently grayed out because of some of the settings on my back end, but with iSales 100 we have the ability to distribute lot and serial information, and here you'll see that we have the ability to determine whether or not that's required at the invoice level, at the credit memo level, at the order level, to be able to require the distribution of lot and serial number. And then lastly, on the transaction tab, we have a checkbox that indicates whether or not each individual user can attribute an order or other transaction to a different salesperson. And this can be helpful in trade shows and other types of multi-salesperson environments. This concludes our presentation on setting up the perfect user experience using iSales 100. If you have any questions for us, you can contact us at info@xkzero.com or call us at 847-416-2009. Thank you.